The section of DZynSource Mold Engineering Software that allows you to do the calculations for bubbler sizes is under the Fluid section, and it is the top choice, bubbler size calculations. This is based on the equivalent area method, which means that if you want to calculate the size of the hole given a certain bubbler, you would use the equivalent area outside of the bubbler that the hole inside the bubbler has. This is the most widely used method for sizing bubblers in the United States. It's not actually the best way to do it, but I will get to that later. There is a calculation at the very top just to do any hole diameter if you want to know what the area of it is. If you want to calculate the hole diameter that you would drill in the core when you know the bubbler ID and OD, so you had a 250 bubbler OD and it's a thin wall tube, so say it's a 230 ID. If you're using the equivalent area method, you would want to drill approximately an 11/30 seconds hole. If you want to calculate the bubbler OD, you can buy bubblers in a lot of different sizes from some common suppliers, and you have your choice. You can have different wall thicknesses combinations. Typically the OD is fixed and then the wall thickness changes, which obviously reduces the diameter of the inside. And this can be useful if you have a part that doesn't have a lot of heat content. You don't necessarily want to have a giant hole going through the mold so that you have to feed a great deal of water to it. So you can use a thicker wall bubbler so that you can make a bigger hole to get your bubbler hole closer to the plastic without having to supply an inordinate amount of water. So based on that, let's just say you had a 1/2-inch hole and your bubbler ID was 250. You would calculate that you need a 433 diameter OD. If you want to calculate the bubbler ID, which would be more typical, using the hole diameter and the OD known, you usually have to pick one that's the closest to it because they're not available in infinite number of sizes. And I'm not talking about just DME or Progressive. You can go to Vita Needle or a number of other places, all tube. So you have that 500 diameter hole and your bubbler OD is, we'll say, 375. Your bubbler ID would be 331 in that case. Now the last section is calculating a feeder line size, and you can use this for feeding bubblers or manifolding water, designing manifolds. It doesn't have to be a bubbler ID, it's whatever diameter you're feeding from the larger hole. So let's just say you have a 250 diameter ID, or you have several 250 diameter holes that you're feeding from another line, and you want to size that line so it has adequate flow to all the lines that it feeds. So you have 8 of these to feed, and calculate that you need to have at least a 707 diameter hole drilled for the feeder line. Again, as with all the other sections in DZynSource, you can clear, send to your default printer, go to the previous menu, or just go back to the main menu.